Hi there, this is Zara, and today we're going to be talking about names and finally looking at the names properly. After my rant that I had my previous video, I was, oh God, I've just recorded it. I'm so annoyed with it still. This one I'm going to be looking at first names, and I'm going to be looking at whether they were a family name. When I say family name, I identify it as basically a first name that was used more than once by the family. So if there's several different L's that have the name, then it's classed as a family name. If there's more than one that's had it, it's basically a family name. Using the same first name is regularly done in royal families as well. For example, the name James was passed down in the Scottish royal family before the Union, and also after the Union. So basically it went from James I all the way down to James V. Which is a total of 5 generations where the first son was named after their father. And then there was Mary, the daughter of James V, who then revived the tradition when she had her son and called them James VI, who was James VI of Scotland, and then he was James I of England. Yeah, so that's what I mean by a family name, basically. In my research, 61% of the Earls had a family name, which was very surprising. I wasn't expecting it to be that high. My knowledge is mostly focused on medieval history, but normally it would be a lot more higher than that for a medieval period. And although I wasn't fully sure for the Victorian period, I was just like, okay. I was like, this seems quite high for the Victorian period. I wasn't expecting much because when I was previously looking at the names, it didn't kind of look like they were all similar. And I was like, oh crap, it's going to just fall to pieces in the Victorian periods. So in Black Butler, we have very limited information on the background of both of the Ciels, their family. When we look at the background of the Phantom High family, there's only 3 generations shown on it. Both of the Ciels had a grandfather called Cedric, and their grandmother was called Claudia. And Claudia was born in 1830. The other Ciels meant to be very proud of being an earl. So it would make more sense that he'd actually go into more details with his family history, that he'd actually have several generations. Many of the Earls are proud of their family history, so they make sure they have a detailed family tree to show how they're related to their predecessors, and often they like to try and connect themselves to royalty. Furthermore, the older an earldom, the more prestige it holds for a family. So a lot of people like to predate theirs to Norman times. They like to try and connect their family up to the Norman times and say, oh yes, we were there in the Norman conquest. Most earldoms, though, were actually created in the 1600s. There should be 9 more generations to the Phantom High family tree, but that are completely missing. That they haven't bothered to bloody world build and add more of the family tree on. It would be really interesting because, you could argue that they were related to royalty or something, Within the family tree, we are also given no other family members called Ciel, which suggests it's not an actual family name. On this conclusion, I decided to look at the non-family names, and then I compared them against several lists of popular Victorian names in England. I could only attain the records for the 1850s to the 1900s, so it's not 100% accurate how I've worked this out, because there's obviously 50 years beforehand where that there's been some Earls born, and I've worked off the 1850s to 1900s ones and just kind of worked out whether they would have actually still been popular previously. I found in general that 81% of the non-family names were popular, at least within 40 years of their birth. So that suggests they were, because the lists only give the top 200 names, so it's possible that they could have been just a little bit under the 200, and that's why they weren't on there. And then they've slowly risen over time and got onto the top of the list. I checked the name of Ciel in these lists, and they just didn't know what the fuck it was. They're like, what the heck? In reaction to this, I decided then to look at the ones that... There were 6 names that weren't popular and weren't family names, and so I decided to look at those in greater detail. Warner, Rudolph, Murray, Ferdinand, Aldred, and Randolph. For these names, I researched their meaning and the background of their fathers and the less immediate family. 4 of them, I found had families connected to the army, and the names had meanings of prestige. The other 2 names, Rudolph and Murray, both had meanings related to prestige. Murray's father was prominent in the House of Lords, so it would have made sense why he was talking about prestige, because he's in the House of Lords. And Rudolph's father worked in the Queen's household, which was very prestigious. Working in the Queen's household, you were expected to work there for the rest of your life, basically, because it was such a prestigious job that you would never want to leave. If we compare this against the name of Ciel, which means heavenly, it doesn't coordinate to the occupation of his family. His father doesn't work in heaven, for example. It doesn't relate to any of his work. Heaven doesn't relate to him being the watchdog of the Queen. The only way I could think that the name was like somehow referred to his job, it referred to the divine right, which is a claim that kings and queens of England hold their power directly from God, and they're only answerable to him. But like, I was just sat there and was like, what the fuck? Like, that would be a really big stretch, and it would not make sense at all. Yes. So I just really felt like that interpretation was graphic. I just so desperate to find something. I was just like, okay, maybe it means this. It is also important to note the name Ciel is French, but all of the 6 names that weren't popular or were not family names were all Old Germanic, Old English or Gaelic. But a combination of these 3 languages highlights an emphasis on very early medieval languages and not French. During the Victorian period, there was a revived interest in the classical era, so a lot of people wanted to learn Old Germanic, Old English, and Gaelic. French was not one of them. If you were interested in French, you would go to Old French. I'm not sure if Ciel actually falls into the Old French category, so it might translate into Old French, but I'm not 100% sure. I also just generally decided to look at the family names and see how popular they were, and all of them except from 2, Rudolph and Vere, were popular, which was was a very surprising number. Like, I didn't expect only 2 of them to not be popular. The name Vere is important as it is from French origin, meaning elder. This name was usually associated with an upper class surname in England, as it had connotations of nobility due to Tennyson's poem Lady Clara Vere de Vere, which praises the simple values of simple folk. See, even this French name, the one French name I could find, links back to nobility. Ciels just means heaven. Like, I don't know. You could somehow connect it with divine right, but like, it'd be a fucking stretch. It would be. It doesn't make any sense. I would more argue basically that the name Ciel was more likely chosen for symbolic value, because especially with other Ciel, I think it was chosen due to be symbolic of a lot of innocence, basically. When the real Ciel dies and his parents die, I think it could also be an oxymoron, because the other Ciels signed away his soul. They've had suggestions that he was always going to be a twin from the start, but like, I don't think they always thought about it, basically. I don't know how they decided to do the symbolism for the Ciel. I don't know why they chose it. Like, I know it means heaven, and other Ciel is contracted to a demon, but he's not the actual Ciel, so it doesn't make sense. I don't understand. I don't understand why they chose the name Ciel. It just does. I think there is a literature reference for it. I can't remember what it is. I know I've read somewhere that was a literature reference, but I don't think it's a very good name. I would argue, basically, that instead of Ciel, the real Ciel should be called Vincent, because that is a fucking family name. It's a popular name in Victorian period. Like, this is using the very limited family tree we've got, basically. The name Vincent derives from Latin meaning conquering and winning, and I think it suits the highly prestigious family. They're literally the Queen's watchdog. They should be winning. They should be conquering. It makes sense. They haven't really thought about this from an earldom point of view, where you're going to want to keep you want to be as prestigious as possible, basically. Also, the name Vincent, if they found that too confusing, having 2 Vincents, I mean, they've got 2 Ciels at the moment, but, if they found that too confusing for some reason, they could go Vinny and Vin. They could use different nicknames. Instead of Ciel, you can't bloody use a nickname for. You have to call one real Ciel and the other Ciel, and it just doesn't make bloody sense. If they decided to suddenly remake the whole of Black Butler, calling him Vincent would make more sense historically. Ciels doesn't make any fucking sense. I get really annoyed by it. It's so stupid. My next video is going to be talking about the other Ciel and what his name should be, basically, and like working out what kind of name he should have had, and looking at him from a second son point of view. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I've probably just been ranting for ages. I hope you enjoy. Have a great day. Take care. Goodbye.